Hello and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in. Hello, and thank you for joining us today for this episode of Her Version. If you are watching us live, thank you so much for jumping in so quickly. If you could do us a huge favor and share this wherever you are watching it at, so we can get more eyes and more ears on the awesome content we're going to be sharing today. We have had over 400 women grace the Her Version platform, and we are so excited for our guests today. This platform is built on storytelling, the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from listening to other people's stories. Today, I'm speaking with an amazing woman named Mindy Scarlett. I just love that name. Mindy is the managing director of the Scarlett Creative Group. She specializes in helping coaches, consultants, and thought leaders write a best-selling book to shine a light on their brand, gain visibility, and increase revenue. After running a full-service in-person marketing company in New Jersey for almost a decade, she moved to Florida just in time for COVID lockdown and had to pivot her business, which I'm super, super excited to talk about all of the pivots that she has made. We enjoyed an awesome conversation just about a week ago. Mindy has over 30 years of experience in marketing and branding to ensure that each of her clients is writing the best possible book for their business. I am super excited to talk to this lady. Welcome, Mindy. How are you? Oh. Sorry, you were muted. Go ahead.
Oh, I am excellent. I hope people are good at lip reading.
Yeah, in today's day and age, they probably are actually.
Well, I'm actually a little hard of hearing. I do more lip reading than people think I do.
I love it. Well, listen, I am so excited to have you on a Saturday nonetheless. So thank you for taking some time out of your day to hang out with us, share some awesome value, and give us some inspiration on this awesome Saturday. Can you do me a favor and just kind of let everyone know where you're from? Well, obviously Florida, but maybe where you came from. And
well, that would probably take the entire podcast, because by the time I was 20, I had moved more times than I was years old. So if I give you a complete story of everywhere I've been, we're going to be here a while.
Are you serious?
We were known as the gypsies because we moved so many times. My dad was a spec builder. He would build a house, we would move in, make it look pretty, put it on the market, and as soon as it sold, we'd move again. And our top year was 3 times moving in 1 year.
Wow. So you would live where you were renovating?
No, my mom was smarter than that. The renovating would have to be done before she would move in, because she knew as soon as we moved in, all work would stop.
Got it. That's awesome. How many children are you part of?
I'm the youngest of 3. And so I have a brother who's 4 years older, a sister who's 8 years older. My sister was smart. She took off to boarding school when she was 14 to sort of, her and my dad just did not get along. And my dad just thought that kids needed to learn how to work. So we were part of his construction crew.
Wow. So, well, listen, that creates good work ethic, right?
Oh, almost too good. I'm such a workaholic now. It's ridiculous. I'm really trying to figure out how to relax.
Same. I remember
my husband did almost die laughing, saying that I was the only woman who ever moved into his apartment with a full set of power tools.
I love it. Yeah, same
So,
here. My parents were always working. We were always doing stuff. My dad was always working on the house, breaking stuff, adding stuff, building stuff, planting stuff. So yeah, same exact. So I'm very grateful for the work ethic, but yeah, I just love go, 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 go. Well,
but no,
listen,
I mean, it was very interesting. It kept us on our toes. And I mean, a lot of times the moves would be like right next door, like he'd build 2 houses right next door. So it wasn't like we moved across the country every time we moved. And so I was only in 4 different schools over the 12 years of my undergrad. So it was always in the same area.
yeah.
So it wasn't cool. Huge change. And it was, and we rolled with the punches. And my mom was hysterical because she wouldn't, she'd have this box of stuff under the sink in the bathroom and she wouldn't unpack it. Because then all she had to do when we moved is reach under, grab the box, and the bathroom was done.
Smart.
Oh, yeah. Very smart woman, my mother. She's amazing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, this podcast is all about storytelling. We love to hear stories. I would love for you to share any story of inspiration, of hope, of pivot, of change that you went through in your life. And tell us a little bit about what you learned, through that story or through that journey.
Well, my journey was anything but conventional. So after my second year at college, and actually my sister and I were the first 2 people in our family to ever go to college. So our whole entire background is blue collar work ethic. My mom was a waitress before she stayed home to have us 3 kids. My dad was a carpenter, and everybody else on either side of their families were, very, very blue collar. But it was just a given that my sister and I were going to go to college and my brother wasn't. So my brother went to work with my dad after he got out of high school, and then he went on to open his own auto body shop. And then my sister and I went to college. And after the second year in college, I married my writing professor and emigrated to Melbourne, Australia, sight unseen. Kind of blew everybody's socks off. It's like, whoa, what just happened?
Yes. Wow.
And I mean, my mom didn't tell me this until many years later, but the day that I left with my new husband to go to Australia, my dad usually came in the afternoon and took a nap and then would go back out and work. And mom just thought that's what he was doing. And then she looked over and he was laying on the floor crying because he was afraid that he would never see me again, that I was going to Australia where he couldn't travel to, and he just was scared that he wouldn't see me again. And mom didn't tell me that till like 10 years later, but it was just like, aw.
Oh, I love that.
But living in Australia was fabulous. I had a wonderful experience. I actually worked for corporate. I worked for some nonprofits, so I worked for corporate when I was there. And then fast forward 10 years, and my slightly older husband decides to go off and play house with somebody else. And I did not see it coming. All the apples came off my apple cart. I was just like, could barely put one foot in front of the other. And the only good thing is that we didn't have any kids. Because if I'd had to gone through an international custody dispute, I can't imagine anything worse. Wow. And so at the age of 30, I packed up 4 suitcases, came back to the US, and had to start over in every sense of the word. Wow. And it was, trust me, it is better to have a bad credit rating than to have no credit rating. I didn't exist as an adult. I had no credit rating. I had no job history. It was very difficult. I had couch surfed with family for almost a year before I finally got my feet under me. And I got a job and I lasted 3.5 months. The whole corporate ethic here. It's just like, time out. Nope, I can't do this. And so in 96, I went out on my own, and I've been out on my own ever since in various renditions, various companies, various things. So that's kind of why.
What's the biggest difference between Australia and here in corporate?
Oh, God, everything. The first year I was gone, I came back for a month and everybody thought I'd quit my job. And I'm like, no, we all get 4 weeks annual leave from year one, no matter what industry you're in. You get a salaried job, you work more than 40 hours, you still get overtime. So to come back here and to be on a salary and then expected to work 80 hours, but not compensated for it, it was like, seriously? And the whole fire at will thing. I mean, they just don't have it there. You either are fired for cause because you did something criminal, or you're made redundant because they don't need your position anymore and they have to give you a golden handshake and let you go. This whole, I don't like how you look this morning, so I'm going to give you a pink slip, doesn't exist. So their labor laws and their support for workers is head and shoulders above what you find here in the States.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, if I hadn't got divorced, I'd still be there. I mean, I loved it. It was great as a culture. Actually, being an American was an advantage. Everybody was like, "Oh, talk! I want to hear your accent." And they're much more English. They're only about 9.5% American. So most of their TV and most of what they, culture. Like for instance, I absolutely fell in love with tea. So I became Earl Grey, just drink Earl Grey tea all the time, a tea aficionado. I've probably got about 25 different types of tea in my cupboard right now. And that whole civilized, every morning at 10 o'clock and every afternoon at 3 o'clock, the entire world would come to a roaring halt for 15 minutes for morning and afternoon tea. And you'd get up, you'd make yourself a cuppa, you'd get yourself a biscuit, and you'd kick back and talk with people around the water cooler and take a break. And then it was like, okay, fine, we've had our rest, we're relaxed, now it's back to work again. Highly civilized.
Wow. Okay. Well, that totally makes sense. And then here you are, you just jumped into entrepreneurship. Did you even know what you were doing?
Did not. Because there's a big difference between being self-employed and actually owning a business. And it took me a lot. I was self-employed for a lot of years. And I'm only just now can honestly say I'm getting to the point where I actually own a business.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of learning along the way, but a lot of fun stuff too. I've done a lot of creative stuff. So when I first jumped out of corporate back in the 90s, I was basically just doing home improvement. I filled up the back of my truck with tools, and I would, put up wainscoting, do a bit of painting, and then I taught myself how to faux paint. And, I was, this all came about so fast. I'm jumping ahead of myself. So anyway, I come back to the States. I'm running around Chicago, deciding that I want to date, but I'm not really a bar sort of person. It's like, when you're 30, where else do you go to meet people? And funnily enough, 1999 was when AOL started doing personals. So this is way before Match, way before any of these online stuff. So I thought, well, this will be interesting. So I think it was like 96 or 97 when I first posted a personal on AOL. And I, went on a few dates in Chicago, and I had just fallen head over heels for someone to find out that he was married with a 6-month-old baby. And I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm giving up men for Lent. This is just too difficult. And I told AOL to take my personal down. And it was a good 2 or 3 weeks later, I get this email. Hi, my name's Dave. I'm a stockbroker in New York. And I saw your picture on AOL. And it really had a nice aura about it. And I'd really like to talk to you. And I'm thinking, yeah, right. That's a line if I ever heard one. And then my second thought is, okay, here's a man who can use the word aura appropriately in a sentence. He can't be all bad. So I typed back, a little bit about me, yada, yada, yada. And then I ended it with, okay, you're geographically challenged. I'm in Chicago. You're in Manhattan. Sort of like, what's the point? Yeah. So he writes back, here's my 800 number. Call me after the market closes. So we played phone tag for a couple of weeks. So last Friday night in September 1999, we finally connected at about 6 o'clock in the evening. Talked for 5 hours. We just couldn't run out of stuff to say. We were both like falling asleep at the end of the phone, and okay, we better talk tomorrow. The next 5 weeks were just glued to opposite ends of the phone. And finally he says, this is nuts. I'm sending you a ticket to New York. So I landed in LaGuardia November 12th. 3 hours later, he proposed. And a week later, we got married.
No way.
And our daughter came 1 day shy of our first anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was definitely a pivot.
How fun is that? That's a cool story.
Yeah, and my husband had kind of implied that he was 39. And at the time I was 36. So I'm like, okay, this is okay. But he tends to forget that when you leave a woman home alone in your apartment, she tends to poke around a bit. And when you get a marriage certificate, you got to cough up your birth certificate. So that's when I discovered that he was actually 10 years older than me. I mean, it wasn't a deal breaker or anything. I just was amused by him implying he was younger than he was. And a few of the other stories that, cover stories that he had, he's like, we're going to be together for a while. I probably should tell you the truth.
Too funny.
Yeah, so it was very interesting. We were living in Manhattan when we first got married. He had an apartment on the Upper East Side. And when I found out I was pregnant with Shannon, I'm like, I'm not doing a baby in a fourth floor walk up on the Upper East Side. Just not me. I need the suburbs where I can drive. And, so we went to New Jersey. And so then that's where we built a life there. I ended up building a business. And then daughter graduated in 2019. And that was the spark that we moved out of town. And it just all fell into place because we got a place in Claremont, Florida, which is about a half an hour due west of Orlando. And our kid got into FSU up in Tallahassee. She loves it. She's in her 4th year. She's got 1 more year to do her 5-year master's program in education. And she loves it. So it just, Florida turned out to be good for all of us.
Yes.
And the only stumbling point, it kind of was the next major pivot, was getting down here just in time for COVID and having an in-person business. I basically had to close the doors. I couldn't go to networking groups. I couldn't meet people. I couldn't gear back up. And so while I was figuring it out, my husband said, well, hey, just help me with my business. I did a lot of freelance writing, and he said, find us a house. He knows me. I'm going to renovate it, get all that done. So fast forward to August of last year, and it's like, okay, I am not wired to be a kept woman. There's only so many times you can go to Target and look for curtains for the kitchen window. And it's like, okay, I need my own thing again. But the thought of restarting an entire marketing agency, it was just like, oh, that made my head hurt thinking about it. And the one line of business that I had super fun with was ghostwriting the books for people to shine a light on their business. So I thought, why not niche down and just do that? And so I was then forced to confront another major issue is that I didn't have a list. I didn't have a following. Oh, yeah, I had social media, but I just posted so that when people went and looked and checked out my digital footprint, there weren't crickets and cobwebs. But I didn't, it's like, okay, I got to fix that. So for 3 months, I just put my head down and made all sorts of connections on LinkedIn and started getting some private clients. And then had the wonderful fortune to run into my current business partner, Lil Barkowski, in a Colleen Biggs Leap community meeting. And on the face of it, we were competitors because we were both ghostwriters and publishers. But we figured out that we were driving distance to each other. So we met up for lunch back before Christmas and discovered we were pretty much 2 halves of a whole. And decided that we were going to align our businesses. And I wanted to concentrate more on the front end, helping people adjust their branding, figuring out what book they should write, and then helping them write it, whether it's me ghostwriting it, coaching them through writing it. And then I had various freelancers I would, use to do the front book cover and do the Amazon bestseller piece. Well, Lil has that on tap. She's got a full team. So now it's wonderful. I can get it up to the finish line, get the manuscript all done and hand it off to her and her team and go like this and go on to the next book. So that's what we started doing. And I had this interesting conversation with someone the first part of the year. She was a mental health therapist. And we just met on LinkedIn and did the usual, networking one-to-one conversation. And in the course of the conversation, she said she needed to write a book. Her business partner needed to write a book. And she talked about 4 or 5 other people she knew that needed to write a book. But I could kind of tell from the conversation that she probably couldn't afford me because she was working in a 9 to 5. And then this thing with her partner was a side gig, etc. But I get off the phone and I'm thinking, she's a center of influence. She could bring all those people and we could look at doing an anthology together as a way to make it affordable for everyone. And if she brought all these connections to me, I could then give her a free seat at the table and 10% of the revenue as a thank you for bringing all these people to the table. So I walked the idea across the hall and threw it at Lil, and she not only caught it, But she did it one better. And she said, why don't we create the Center of Influence community? So that way coaches, consultants, speakers, and thought leaders have a place to come and hang out. And then we can invite people as senior members who are basically there to have services for that crowd. So whether they be LinkedIn lead generators, whether they be coaches who coach coaches, that type of thing. And then other groups can then be invited in. But what we were doing is looking at the industry, and there's a lot of anthologies, a lot of compilation books, but not a lot of follow through. So a lot of people get left hanging. They invest in doing an anthology and doesn't do anything for their business because their front end expectations are not set properly, and then there's no follow through. So we wanted to create something totally different. We wanted to create it where somebody can come and do an anthology with us. They can do it for sweat equity. And then we're going to give them a 2-year membership in the community. So they're going to get supported for 2 years after they do their anthology. And they can bring their other books and sell them in the bookstore. I mean, there's just a lot of perks and a lot of things that we're trying to put into this to give people support. So I'm just like really excited about this, that, this is going to be a great, fun way to be able to, bring people in, allow them to be best-selling authors, but only with a chapter in an anthology instead of having to do the time, money, and effort of doing an entire book themselves. I mean, sure, certainly, if that's something they wish to do, we'll help them do it. But this is a great first step. And so that's what I'm really excited about. And, every Thursday night we're getting together and talking to people about it because we haven't officially launched yet. We're not doing that till the 1st of May. But this just feels like a really good pivot.
Yeah, for sure. I want to talk about pivoting for a little bit because I think that you're such a great example to so many individuals who have this desire inside of them to jump into something new, but fear tends to get in the way. They halt, they pause, they stop, and they wind up just kind of staying complacent for sometimes their entire life. What are some attributes that you believe you have personally that has allowed you to be able to kind of, jump? Like you think something and then you do, and you take action, and then it builds and you create something. What is that inside you? What are those attributes that individuals can kind of zone in on themselves and maybe kind of massage?
Well, I guess, and I don't even remember who said this to me, but it was many, many moons ago. But just the concept that if you figure out the worst possible outcome with everything that's in front of you, and you can live with that outcome, then that takes the worry out of the situation. Because then anything else that happens is only going to be better than the worst, and you figured that you could handle that. And I just have taken that to heart and use that as the ruler for the situation in front of me. And I mean, and sometimes you don't actually have a choice. David and I had gotten married. Our daughter was about 10 months old, and I had the TV off, and I just was playing with her on the floor. And my foster daughter, Miranda, called me from Chicago, and she said, "Min, you've got to turn on the TV." And I turned on the TV just in time to see the second plane hit the second tower. And my husband was due in to the World Trade Center at 9:00 that morning. And I spent 6 hours not knowing if he was underneath that pile of rubble or not.
Wow.
And his office was off the air, because people don't always understand that the World Trade Center towers were a major communication hub. So there was cell phone systems was down, and it also affected a lot of landlines, and there was a huge communication snafu. And then you had the rest of the world trying to call in to Manhattan to figure out where their people were. And my husband, basically, if the lady at the MTA had hesitated 5 more minutes, I would not have a husband, because she tripped the trigger and made his train go to 33rd Street instead of going to the World Trade Center. So it was that close. And he gets to he gets to 33rd Street, and he's annoyed because he thinks somebody made a mistake, because he's supposed to be getting out at the World Trade Center, and his office was literally half a block from the World Trade Center. And you hear somebody say about a plane hitting the World Trade, and he just thinks like a little plane just clipped a wing on a corner. He just thinks nothing of it. Hops on the regular subway, and everything stops at Canal Street, and they get sent topside. And so it took him until like 1:30 that afternoon to get a call out to me, and I was just beside myself. And the original plan was I was going to stay home and raise Shannon. But in the aftermath of 9/11, it was, he was, didn't have any money coming in for several months. And it was just a major thing. And we had the landlord saying, if you're late with the rent one more time, we're going to evict you. And it's like, okay, I got to do something. I don't have a choice here. And I have a 10-month-old baby. And to find daycare for a 10-month-old baby is pretty close to impossible. Yeah. I finally found a pastor's wife who was doing it in her home. And, marketing and anything to do with marketing and advertising, people were getting laid off. So I fell back on my roots. I filled my car with tools, and I went out there and started painting and, doing a little bit of home improvement, and accidentally started a kitchen and bathroom company. I didn't plan it. It just kind of snowballed and rolled down the hill. And so I did that for 5 years until a client figured out how not to pay me $42,000. And that just was a sucker punch. And what do you do? So that I decided then to go back to marketing. And then that's when I started my agency. So it's learning the art of the pivot means that you can take whatever life throws at you and flip it and turn it and twist it until it's something positive. Because if you just take it as a victim and sit down in the middle of the road and say, poor me, you're going to get run over. You're going to be one of those flattened squirrels that can't figure out which side of the street to go on, And I think it was, it's definitely growing up on a construction site and having your dad tell you, well, you can do that. You get this sense of independence and this sense of, I can control my destiny. I can control what I do and say next. And luckily I was also born with a, more positive outlook. My mom used to call me the sunny bunny. Because I always had a smile on my face, So yeah, I think it's just a case of, the way I look at it is this. Anything in life is like having a bowl of all these little pieces of yarn in front of you. And then you figure out what the pattern is, what you want to knit, and you get your knitting needles. And then you got to figure out how to put all things together. And somebody might come along and boot kick your basket and flip all the yarn all over everything. And then you got to run around and pick it up and stick it back in the bowl and go back to, okay, where's the needles? Where's the pattern? But if you're always focused on putting one foot in front of the other and going forward, and that you pull a good crew of people around you that you can get access to advice and support and ideas, then nothing's impossible. And whoever said, many heads are greater than one is true, but then you also have to acquire the ability to know who to listen to. I have a client that I'm working with. He's starting a nonprofit. And he has all these wonderful ideas. And I did the knitting needle analogy with him. And I said, okay, you kind of need to focus in, still have the big ideas, just put them in a folder and put them on the shelf until you're ready for them. Because he's the sort of person that people will, chat in his ear, and he'll be like, squirrel, squirrel. The biggest and best, shiniest thing. And I'm like, okay, time out, you need to focus, quit chasing after the latest shiny thing. Like the dogs in the movie Up that can't stop chasing squirrels.
Yes, definitely. So how do you do that as far as, coming up with a creation and focusing on that one thing? Because I'm sure you have the same issue with, several different ideas or thought processes. How do you pick just one?
It might sound a little trite, but you kind of just have to listen to your gut. Yeah. It's just what feels right. And I don't know that I have anything more to say on that than that, because it's very individualized. Every person has their own way of figuring it out. And it's really back to my mother. She was just, if you look up the phrase common sense in the dictionary, you're going to find a picture of my mom, because she was just always, you just moved forward and got it done and figured it out. And between that and growing up on a construction site, MacGyver is my middle name. Whether it's a physical problem like a pipe that's busted and I got to figure out how to fix it, or whether it is a blow up with a client, or whether it is, trying to decide, when I was trying to decide in August what to niche down to. You have to weigh all of the options. You have to look at your surroundings. You have to look at the market. And I could look at the market and see that, a lot of coaches and consultants are out there writing books. They need help. So the demand was there. I enjoyed doing it. So those are two positive things. And it was something that I could do online. I didn't have to do it in person.
Yeah, definitely.
So once I went through that sort of logical process, it just made sense.
Yeah. When, speaking to the females that are watching live right now, by the way, thank you for being here live. We appreciate you. If you are catching us on the replay, make sure you #replay wherever you're at, so that we can send you some love on whatever platform you're watching us at. But Mindy, I know that there are so many females out there who have this burning desire to write a book. Pretty much everybody that I talk to wants to write a book, or think about writing a book, or they've been told they should write a book. What's the biggest difference between writing an entire book and writing a book with 10 other people? Why should somebody think about doing that as maybe their first tippy toe in order to take a step towards that? Because writing a full book is time, money, editing. It's a lot.
That's where the anthology can, really be an important first step, or an in-between step. And I'll explain that one in a minute. But as a first step, you're writing 4 to 5. Well, let's just quickly explain the reason for the magic number 10. That is the number of authors that Amazon attaches to a book. So if you're in an anthology with 20, 30, 40, that causes all sorts of other issues. Don't get me started. We'll be here all day. But and so first we like to work with our potential clients and figure out that them having a best-selling book is actually going to help their business. That's the first thing we want to make sure. Because it's not a vanity project. It's not War and Peace. It's not becoming John Grisham. It's you being able to shine a light on what your superpower is, so you can explain to people why they should hire you. That's essentially what we're doing here with this best-selling book. And if it's your first one out, then it's easier to write 4,000 to 5,000 words than it is to write 30 or 40,000 words. And then if it's around a vertical, then you've got 9 other people that are also out there pushing that book. So it's not just you, it's not just your tribe. You tap in to everybody else's audiences and their lists and who they're, connected to on LinkedIn. So it's the exponential factor of getting the book out there, getting people interested, etc. So that is the first important thing to think of in terms of an anthology. Secondly, from a time and expense point of view, it's a least cost option, which is a great way to get started. So those are some of the reasons why an anthology would be a good way for someone to get their toe in the water. And then the in-between comment is, okay, think of a college professor. They're trying to get tenure and they're expected to publish, but they can't just publish one and done. They're expected to continue to publish. And same with you're a coach or a consultant or a public speaker. If you've got a book and it's 5 years old, well, they're going to look at you funny when you're trying to sell a 5-year-old book. And if you don't have the time or the money to do a full book now, a quick way to refresh your pedigree in the writing department is to do an anthology. But it definitely needs to be done the right way, because trust me, I have lost count of the number of times I have been in networking Zoom rooms. And when people find out that I'm a publisher and a ghostwriter and I do anthologies, they pop their hand up or they come and tap me on the shoulder afterwards and say, well, I was in this best-selling anthology last summer and it didn't do anything for my business. And that's what my business partner and I want to fix with this center of influence community, is to then give them the tools and the support that they need, so they do not, put it this way, we don't ever want any of our clients to have buyer's remorse. We want them to be happy that they have done a book with us or done an anthology with us, because we want to give them above and beyond their expectations in terms of support.
What is your, you're talking about the anthologies and the fact that there's 10 people and you're kind of plugging in. Where does networking, community kind of plug into that as far as the importance?
I think they're all equally important, because you definitely need to get out there. Now, this is a little bit of a bone of contention between my business partner and I, because she's the ultimate, she absolutely adores what's been created by COVID, that she can just stay home and work. And she teases me about my need to have in-person connectivity, because that's just the way I'm wired. And she's like, well, why would you waste all that time? You got to travel to the place to meet them and then travel back. Zoom, you just plug in and you're there. And I'm just like, yeah, but doesn't have the same energy as in person. But it's important, whether you're doing networking online or whether you're doing it in person or a combination of both. No business can live without a network. That's just the simple truth of it. And the way that I've always networked is I've always done it on the premise of giver's gain. So when I'm ever having a conversation with someone and they might say something that's totally outside the purvey of what I do, but they express a need for something, and if I know somebody, then I'm going to instantly say, hey, I have this person and they do this, and would they potentially help you with that? Great, I'll go introduce you. Now, whether it's an email or whether it's a LinkedIn message, whatever it is, I'll get the two of them together and then bye-bye. It's up to you whether you make something of this or not. Okay, full disclosure, I am a Rolodex girl. I used to be the way I did it, was with my Rolodex. And so now I'm having to deal with the whole concept of CRM, and I'm not always happy about that. Whole new learning curve. Yeah. But just that, and it's interesting because I ran across this young man who came to one of my webinars, and I was talking about the workshop that I was building to be able to workshop people through writing their book. And he'd come to that, and I found out that he was in Orlando. And I'm like, great, let's meet up in real life for a cup of tea. I love a cup of tea. And found out that he was a budding marketer. And, I just started becoming elder statesman marketer and giving him advice and connecting him to people and what have you. And the third time we got together, he's like, okay, I have to ask a question. Why are you helping me? I started laughing and I said, well, it's just what I do. I'm paying it forward, because when I came back from Australia, I was a mess emotionally and financially. And there was so many people who helped me in so many different ways. If I can see that there's something that in my background and knowledge and whatever, and I can help you, then why wouldn't I? And then he was like, okay, how do I figure out when I should pay it forward? I said, that's wonderful that you're asking that question, but get yourself solid first, because he's still, doesn't have solid ground with a proper income. He's married and, and all the rest of it. And so I said, no, it's the old adage of putting the oxygen mask over your own face first. Get yourself safe and solid. And then when you're in that position, then you can worry about paying it forward. But I love the fact that was his first instinct, was to then turn around and pay it forward. It's like your heart's in the right place, but you kind of need to get that solid foundation before you then have the safety to then be able to pay it forward.
Exactly. Definitely. What's your big dreams for this community and this business that you and Lil are building?
It's kind of interesting. You would think that my response would be to bring in as many people as possible. And that, in fact, is not the dream. The dream is to bring in the right people. the people who do have that giver's gain ethos and who have a lot of experience and skills and who really want to build community, who aren't just out for themselves, who aren't just out there chasing the buck. Yes, money does make the world go round. And yes, we all want to be successful. But if you pursue money to the exclusion of all else, you miss out on a lot in life. You really do. So our dream is to build this purposely. Get all the right people in the room who really have that giver's gain mentality, and to create a bunch of authors who are happy that they did business with us. So that's the dream.
Beautiful. For those that are watching live, for those that are watching on the replay, for those that are resonating with all the goodness that you're sharing, where should people be following you on social media? Where do you hang out the most?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn? Under Mindy Scarlett?
Under Mindy Scarlett, yep.
Beautiful. And website, thescarletcreativegroup.com. And then there's another one in the description. What's the one in the description?
Yeah, centerofinfluencecommunity.com is the website that's under construction. So definitely go and check it out, but it's not done yet.
Is it available? Can people go in?
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome.
We're keeping the doors open and letting them watch while we are under construction. So no, it's going to be a whole, people who come in and are in Anthology and then they go in the bookstore. We didn't turn around and say, hey, even if you've done books that we haven't published, go ahead and put them in the bookstore. So it's all about helping people sell books, use books to promote themselves, and even just getting the clarity at the beginning to understand why they're doing the book. What book should they write to truly shine a light on their brand? And then once it's in existence, what's the best way to use it as a marketing tool?
Yeah.
And we give them a DIY marketing kit and give them a push off from the shore, but then we make it clear, we've pushed it out the boat for you. You need to learn how to paddle.
Yeah.
But there's this whole community of people who can help you paddle. So then you just have to reach out to the correct people to give you the support that you need to really make that book work for you.
Exactly. That's beautiful. Very, very cool. Well, I love everything that you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
I think it's fantastic. I think you and Lil are amazing individuals who are really, reaching for individuals who are trying to inspire, who are trying to impact, a lot of times through their story. And I think our story is, our most powerful, most valuable thing that we could give to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
Just every Thursday night at 7, we're just holding an information group about the community. So if you want to come and find out more about it, we'd love to have you. Very unstructured and just, not a free for all, but it's certainly, everybody's welcome to come and to comment and to ask questions. And I think it's a case of, back to the original subject about the art of the pivot. If you can fall in love with the idea of change, always be ready for it, then you can always spin it into something positive. But if you go into victim mode when change happens, it's really hard to pull yourself out of a dive.
Yeah.
So just that one little flip of the switch, look at change as the potential for good, and always go in that direction. Then no matter what life throws at you, you can flip it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing some of your awesome story and journey. Like, what a cool story.
Thank you.
Love that. So fun. For those of you that are here live, for those of you that are on the replay, if you resonated with Mindy and all of the goodness that she shared today, make sure to find her predominantly on LinkedIn under Mindy Scarlett. Her website is above her head area, and there should also be clickable links underneath down here for you to be able to click and check out all the awesomeness that she is doing right now. We love to connect people here on this platform in order to make sure that we all continue to rise. Thank you so much for joining us here on this episode of Her Version. This community is expanding every single day and is filled with individuals who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. If you have an amazing story to share, reach out to us at hernation.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I am so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others.